Great news! There's a quick way you can save money. Switch to Geico. Geico could help you get great coverage at a great price, and it only takes 15 minutes to see if you could save 15% or more on car insurance. Go to geico.com today and see how much you could save.
We're waiting our next guest who will be calling us in. That's the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell. He is in Minneapolis already for Super Bowl 52. We are headed up there today.
Yeah, I'll be looking for a doctor there.
Yeah, you're playing hurt this week because you fell
It's embarrassing.
over a leash.
It is. Walking my 3 dogs. They had him on a leash. The last one, I'm getting Harry, our pug, on a leash. He takes off. I try and jump out of a spinning leash. Thought I was an athlete. Went down hard.
Well, you know what? The odds are if one of us was going to have that problem, I thought it was going to me.
You know, I was happy about. I didn't fall on the dog. The other 2 dogs are already run by this one guy. It was my 1-year-old, my youngest pug, and I didn't fall on him. But my shoulder is now damaged, and I will need a doctor.
Well, you know what? I'm thankful that that's the glass half that you didn't squish the dog.
Yes, that would have been bad.
That would have made a bad situation worse. Yep. So I don't want to talk about that anymore. Let's move on. We are headed to Minnesota, as we said. Our flight leaves this afternoon, and when we'll be there, we will be in the same place where our next guest is right now. That's the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, and he joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Roger, thanks for being with us this morning. I know that tomorrow you give your annual State of the League address, as you always do in the Super Bowl city, so I guess we're getting a little bit of a sneak peek here. What can you tell us about what people can expect in the State of the League address tomorrow?
Well, first, guys, it's great to be with you. It's an honor to be with you. My first appearance on the Golick and Wingo show, so thank you for having me.
We thought about it long and hard. We decided, we'll let you on.
And before you answer, before you answer that question, Commissioner, I know you speak in front of a lot of people, and I know one of the great things to do is always try and put them at ease. So when you get in front of all those people tomorrow, instead of starting with the State of the League, start with the fact that the night you're talking, there's going to be a supermoon, blue moon, and lunar eclipse all on the same night. I think you'll really freak them out.
Well, and I'm heading out to get a little of the Bold North this afternoon. We're going to be on a lake snowmobiling with some of the people in the host committee of Minnesota that did all the tremendous work for us there in Minnesota. So it's going to be a real Minnesota experience over the next 48 hours.
That sounds fun. Yeah, I dig this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, he's going to go ice fishing later. That's the other side.
I am.
You're being a little more active than he is, but he's got some issues that he's working through right now. But there have been some issues, Roger, that the league has been working through. So where would you assess the overall health and state of the league right now as we get set for Super Bowl 52?
Well, we really like our position. We think, the NFL content, the game itself, the experience that people get with NFL football is really what makes it all exciting for us, and we're thrilled with our position. Obviously, we have challenges, but we're excited about meeting those challenges and being better. And I think we're better today than we were before the season started, and we've had a great season and an exciting finish, and I look forward to a great Super Bowl on Sunday.
You know, one of the things about the year that has been talked about is the declining TV ratings. And I know for a lot of ratings have been down, but NBA has been up, even though the NFL ratings are still higher than everybody else's. They have gone down some, and we all go over the particular reasons for them. What do you think are the major reasons that the ratings have been down?
Well, I think there's no one specific thing, and as you say, it's across the board. Once in a while you see certain things that'll jump from time to time, but at the end of the day, I don't think anything could match the ratings experience of the NFL, not even close. We're 37 of the top 50 television shows, number one overall on Fox on Sunday afternoon of all television, number one on Sunday night. So we feel that the strength of our game is even getting stronger. But you always look to see what's happening in the industry. I think there are changes that are happening more rapidly than any of us ever thought in the television industry. But it still stands that the NFL game is standing above the rest of the crowd by a long shot.
Well, to that point, 64 of the top 100 shows were NFL games, and as you said, 9 of the top 10. And we actually saw that, Roger, with the Pro Bowl. It was up 26% over the last year in a monsoon, by the way, in Orlando.
Yeah, and you're right about that. And the thing that I still marvel at is, when I say 37 of the top 50, 10 years ago that was 11 out of the top 50.
Yeah, no.
So you talk about how obviously television has changed. but you see the dominance of the NFL continue, and that's something that we don't take for granted. We work hard every day to try to make it better. What can we focus on to make our game better?
There's no question it's still the surest thing on television. That's not a debatable point. One of the things, Roger, that some people look to for maybe a reason why there may have been a dip in the ratings this year was the social activism we saw in the anthem protests. But I found it interesting that you and the NFL have now partnered up with a new initiative with the players to be more active and more of a partnership with them in their social issues. How did you guys get to that point, and what's the outcome you guys are hoping for there?
Well, Trey, the key thing was listening to our players, understanding, what our players were passionate about, what they were focused on. And the incredible thing for me was it certainly opened my eyes, the ownership's eyes, to things that are happening in our own communities that our players felt needed to be addressed. They are not only articulate about it, they fully understand it. They are engaged. They've done a tremendous amount of work. And they believe we can make our communities better by working together. And the ownership was proud, and I was proud to join them, and not just understanding these issues and listening to their point of view, but supporting them and trying to say, here's the things that we would like to do in our communities to try to make our communities better for everybody and give voices to the voiceless and try to make sure that we're doing the things we should be doing in our communities as leaders.
Has that started? You guys together and what you've worked out, has that been put in process?
It started. We've done a lot of work. It's sort of in a few areas. One, there's a tremendous amount of work that's being done on legislative front, whether that's on the federal level or on the state or local level. That's something working with players that we've done. We've also done, and I've participated myself in what we call listen and learn tours, which is to try to get a better understanding from law enforcement's perspective, what's going on in the communities, from the community leaders themselves, and just listening to them and understanding and trying to develop a better relationship. And then additionally, what we can do to help promote what our players are currently doing in their markets. And, there's a lot of focus on the Eagles, obviously, this week with the Super Bowl, but Malcolm Jenkins and Chris Golick and Torrey Smith have all been real leaders in their community as well as this effort.
Talking to Roger Goodell, NFL commissioner here on Golick and Wingo. Along those lines, I know when you met with them, it wasn't mandated that players don't kneel for the national anthem anymore. What are your expectations next year when the season starts as far as that goes?
Mike, our focus is going to be on creating this platform so that the players can continue to talk about the important work that needs to be done. We've often said we need to move from protest to progress, and this platform is that. This is what they sought. This is the type of activities that we all wanted to work together to try to promote and try to make an impact in our community. So we think this is going to be our focus, and this is something that they've all asked for.
Roger Goodell with us here on Golick and Wingo this morning. Roger, along those lines, there was a little bit of a kerfuffle, for lack of a better term, about an ad that was denied in the Super Bowl program from some veterans asking people to please stand for the national anthem. What was the rationale behind that decision?
Well, we have a lot of ads in our game program, and there's a lot of people that negotiate and are involved with discussions about how to get involved with the Super Bowl program. We do have an ad from VFW supporting our veterans. The AMP ad didn't come together after a lot of negotiations, but it's not any indication of any lack of support. Otherwise, we have a VFW ad that we think talks about and celebrates the important work that our veterans are doing. And, of course, you all know around the Super Bowl we'll have 15 Medal of Honor winners that we're going to bring together, which is, I think, the largest ever be brought together in any event other than their national and annual gathering. So we're going to be celebrating our military and making sure that everyone understands the important work they do, as we always do around our game.
Just one more on that. I want to move on the field to the absolute hardest question we're going to ask you this morning.
Yes, by far.
did you hear from a lot of or veterans, both because I know there were some that didn't like the players doing that, and others said we don't have a problem with the players doing that. Did you personally hear and talk to a lot of veterans about this?
I did, and not only that, met with several of them, including the national commander of the VFW. And, I think it's important to do that. And some of the players joined us in some of those meetings. And I think our clubs were very active on this front also. So it's important to listen and make sure there's a better understanding and what the players were saying as part of this protest as opposed to the way it's being portrayed sometimes in the public.
Roger Goodell with us, the NFL commissioner. And let's move on to a really easy question. Roger, what's a catch?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna try to work and clarify that in the off season. We had about 5 Hall of Famers come in a couple of weeks ago, and several coaches and our officials, and we all sat and spent a lot of time about how do we bring clarity to this rule so that everybody fully understands it. One of the things that stood out to me from one of the Hall of Famers is that fans want catches,
right?
And so let's try to make sure that we want to bring clarity to how the officials officiate it, so that obviously the coaches and the players know what to expect. But I think there's also as great a job as the officials do, they're officiating around a rule that exists, and they're doing a great job with it. I think we got to look at the rule itself as, is it accomplishing what we want? And that's to, obviously bring that clarity to what a catch is. And I think there are several things that just had a long conversation with a head coach last night that I think are leading to some changes this spring that I think will address this issue.
Well, we're looking forward to that. And if I may interject one thought process there.
Oh, boy.
I would. I know. Like, really what you wanted to hear, some lame radio guy throwing in his opinion. But
Trey, you want a spot on the competition committee, don't you?
Done. I'm in. I've been sitting next to Bill Poley, and I feel like I'm smarter now. I would love there to be some equality in terms of what a catch is and possession across the goal line as opposed to a run. Because if you have possession of the football and it's a rush and you lean over the goal line, the ball knocks out, it's a touchdown. But if you catch the ball in the field of play and you have possession and you get to the goal line and it's knocked out or you don't survive the ground, it's not a catch. It would be great if we could have like that goal line demarcation be the same whether it's a run or a catch.
Trey, you make a really strong point, and it's what we call consistency, and that's what everybody wants from officiating. And it's hard when you see there's a different rule on a catch as you're crossing the goal line as opposed to a run. And I think the thing where we're really focused in on is this going to the ground and surviving the ground. I think that's what's caused a little bit more of the controversy, and that's the area that the committee is going to be focused on the next few weeks.
Quick follow-up from me. These 5 Hall of Famers you brought in, were they all wide receivers? Because the wide receivers, they're going to say if the ball touched their hands, it's a catch. I hope you brought in some secondary players as well.
Well, you'd be surprised because one of them was Chris Carter, and Chris, as you know well, actually has the exact opposite approach.
Really?
Chris thinks you should catch the ball and hand it to the official, and if you don't, it's not a catch. And so he's got a very strong view, which he expresses incredibly well because he's one of the great ones and somebody I admire tremendously and respect tremendously. But we did have some defensive backs in there. We tried to get the perspective of everybody. And when you go through this kind of, I guess, work and focus, it's important to get that perspective, including the officials who were in the room, saying, what do I see at this play? So we looked over 50 plays from this past season and talked about different concepts and then apply it to it and see, does that work? Does that cover what we want? Because, again, I'm not sure the rule is accomplishing what we all intended to accomplish right now. And that's not the official's fault. That's our fault. We need to fix that rule.
Right. And I guess along those lines, it would play with it is it felt like you may have numbers to say it's not, but it felt like there were more replays as well, which took up more time as well. Is that the case? And are there thoughts of redoing any kind of the replay system at all?
Well, we always review the replay system, but you're right that there were more replay stoppages this year. They were shorter in duration, but there were still more interruptions on the replay, and I think we are trying to address that because, as you know, last year we spent a great deal of time on the game presentation, which was about reducing unnecessary stoppages and unnecessary delays, commercial delays, delays that really fans don't want to see. They want to see football in action. Right. And not the kinds of delays that are officials conferencing. And so we did, I think, a terrific job in the first year and made some real positive changes, including reducing the length of the game by almost 2 minutes. but we need to do more, and I think we can do better, particularly in that area where the replays can be done, I think, a little more efficiently, and we also have to see if we can keep it from being such an imposition in the action of the game.
NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell with us this morning on Golic and Wingo. A little sneak peek of what he'll be talking about tomorrow as the State of the League. His annual address will be in Minneapolis at the site of Super Bowl 52. And I imagine, Roger, in light of the news that came out yesterday, this question might come up at the State of the League. Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred working with the Cleveland Indians to remove Chief Wahoo, the mascot, from the uniform. Some people deem that mascot racist, and it'll be phased out in a year. It will no longer be on their caps or their sleeves. Have you thought at all about working anymore with Dan Snyder about the issue with the Washington Redskins and the name of that franchise?
Well, Trey, as you know, this issue's been around for
yes.
Several decades, if not longer. And I think the interesting thing is Dan Snyder has really worked in the Native American community to understand better their perspective, and I think it's reflected mostly in a Washington Post poll that came out in the last year that said over 9 out of 10 Native Americans do not take that in a negative fashion, the Redskins logo or the Redskins name, and they support it. And so I think the focus that we've had is, in any way, is this insulting to the Native Americans? And I think that poll is overwhelmingly positive that they don't. I think the Redskins have done a tremendous amount of work here, and I think Dan continues to believe in the name, and I don't see him changing that perspective.
From that point, do you, the league office, and you in particular, hear from people about that? And if so, what influence can you have? As Trey said, Rob Manfred worked with Paul Dolan in Cleveland. Do you have the power to have him change it or strongly suggest it, or how does that relationship work in this instance?
Well, again, I think you start from the position of, what the reaction is of the Native Americans. And as I said, that's overwhelmingly positive about it. Second, I think you obviously ask Dan to listen and make sure you understand what the fans are saying, which he has. We have. We don't hear this very much from our fans, but we understand there are different perspectives on this, and we're sensitive to that and understand it, and we make sure that we do whatever we can to make sure we're presenting all of our teams in a positive fashion.
NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell with us this morning on Golic and Wingo, and obviously the Super Bowl is the pinnacle of the sports year in a lot of ways. It's really a national holiday, Roger, that we don't recognize on the national holiday calendar in the U.S. And one of the biggest reasons is you don't have to have a dog in the fight to be interested. We had the stat, $4.76 billion will be bet in and around the Super Bowl. Another league, the NBA, is looking at the idea of maybe trying to work with gambling to sort of make it more cohesive with the sport. We have a team now in the NHL that's in Las Vegas. We have an NFL team that's headed there. Where is the relationship or the idea of the separation of the NFL and gambling right now as we're going forward?
Well, Trey, to me, it's very clear, which is about the integrity of a game. You don't want to do anything that's going to impact negatively on the integrity of our game. You want to be certain that there are no outside influences on our game and that fans don't even have any issue with that. They understand, whether there's a perception or not, that there is no influence in our game. And that's something that we stand firmly behind in the integrity of our game. We see changes going on. Obviously, I don't think 10 years ago most people would have looked at having an NFL franchise or an NHL franchise in Las Vegas. Clearly, there are changes occurring. The Supreme Court is considering changes potentially in laws with respect to gambling across our country. And I think we're going to be prepared as a league to address those, and no matter how the Supreme Court comes out, but also how things continue to evolve. And I think we have, but we're going to protect the integrity of the game. I assure you of that.
And I guess a follow-up on that for me would be, if just about all that money is illegally bet anyway, the integrity of the league, I understand, but if people wanted to get the players, they'd be doing it already. I mean, since most of the gambling is illegal already, if it's legalized and more quote unquote above board, I'm not sure. I'm trying to understand where that would hurt the integrity of the game as opposed to illegal bettors trying to influence players now?
Well, Mike, I think it depends a lot on what type of regulatory issues are implemented.
Right.
Second, I think there's a very significant consumer protection. We've seen that in other forms that I think we want to make sure that our consumers are protected. So there are a lot of issues that come with that make sure that there is security, there is confidence in the system. It just isn't throwing the doors open, and that's our biggest issue because that affects our fans, it affects our players, it affects the confidence in our game. So that's the line we're going to continue to hold.
Understood. And so I guess maybe the biggest question, since it's the most immediate, is when you go snowmobiling, will you open it up all the way? I mean,
full throttle.
Will you full throttle this thing? Will you go that fast?
Guys, I'm going for it. Let's roll. So I'm going to go for it. I hear we're on a lake, so I'm assuming that it's frozen. One
would hope. One would hope, Roger. One would hope. That would be key.
I think I'll let somebody else go first and follow behind. How's that?
There you go. I'm right behind you, 100%.
That's great. Away. So much room out on a lake. That's fantastic. Yeah, right.
Well, I love the fact because Gold's going to go full throttle when he sits there and ice fishes too. So you both are going full throttle, just in different ways. Roger, we appreciate you being with us. We know you're busy, and we hope we give a little preview of everything you'll be asked tomorrow at the State of the League address.
Thanks, Roger.
I'm sure, and it's great to be with you guys, and good luck with the show. I'm big fans.
Thanks, Roger. We'll talk to you later on this week. Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance, and that was the voice of Commissioner Roger Goodell, who was kind enough to join us the last segment, talking about a bunch of things in light of what's going ahead with his State of the League address, which will be done Wednesday in Minneapolis, site of Super Bowl 52. And again, he'll be speaking in time where you'll see that entire State of the League address on NFL Live. We'll have that for you. But it was interesting. We brought up the Redskins case, Mike, because of what's going on in Major League Baseball.
Right.
Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred is working with Paul Dolan, has worked with Paul Dolan, the owner of the Indians. In 2019, Chief Wahoo, the mascot face, the caricature face, bucktooth Redskin face, will no longer be on the Indians' uniforms and not on the field. And so that's why we asked him about the issue with the Washington Redskins, and he did reference that poll, which came out in 2016, in May of 2016, in a Washington Post poll, which I was surprised by this. I really was.
Yeah.
That 9 in 10 Native Americans weren't offended by the Washington Redskins name.
I think it was 500 some?
500 full people across every state.
I guess that's what and we had a good discussion, me, you, and my son Mike this morning when he was here about this, and that's questions from both sides. As I said, doesn't affect me if the nickname goes away. If Chief Wahoo is not on the uniform anymore, I'm still going to watch it. If the Washington Redskins change their name to something else, I'm still going to watch them play. But on the other side of the questions I asked was, and a lot of people are asking, so who deems what offensive, and where's the line of saying, okay, this is so offensive, I now change it? Or are we in a society now where if it even gives a hint of it, change it before any backlash happens? So as we even talked about it a lot in the break, me, you, and my son, is why do we can sit there and say we don't like it, but the people it's supposed to be offending, if they do a poll and of Native Americans and they don't mind it, then how do we say, well, do we say it doesn't matter what you say, it should be changed anyway because it's offensive? And I understand you saying it being offensive. Is 500 not enough? What if the poll was 5,000 Native Americans and 8 out of 10 said they weren't offended? Then should that end the story to you? I guess that's the question for everybody is, where is your line? Of it offending you? Does it offend the people that we think it's supposed to offend? And what are their thoughts about it?
Well, to that point, there were some people that didn't agree with the findings in the Washington Post, and one of them was Susan Harjo, a lead plaintiff in a case challenging Washington's trademark protections, which, by the way, were taken away but then reinstated. She said, I just reject the results. I don't agree with them. I don't agree that this is a valid way of surveying public opinion in Indian country. But other people, including a leader of the Oneida Nation, said North Americans are resilient and have not allowed the NFL's decade-long denigration of us to define our own self-image. So this one is a little more, I think, complex.
Right.
Because you can't look at that picture of Chief Wahoo.
Well, Chief Wahoo, there's a picture, an actual illustration to look at that and say, oh yeah, this was meant, and it's not offensive,
right? By
looking at it, and then there's a name, Washington Redskins, which we see the logo that had been on the helmet for years as well. Like I said, time is not an excuse because it's always been that way. Doesn't mean it always should be that way.
Will tell you that's the worst argument you can ever make.
I'm with you, and at some point, enough builds up. So in this age of social media and everybody having a voice and it being heard immediately, things can build up quicker. How many jump on the backs of that? Don't really have a care either way, but jump on it just because it's a cause. I don't know the answer to that. And then how many people are offended by something else? An angel, a devil, a pirate, something like that. And who do you go to then? Who do you take a poll of then? That this is if I'm offended by it. So take a poll if these people associated with it should be offended by it. I don't know.
Well, you're right. It is an unknown. I just think that it's never too. Whenever you get to a point where you realize this doesn't make sense, it's never a bad idea to get to that.
I agree, but I guess I'll say again. Not everybody. People want the Washington Redskins name changed. And they asked Native Americans who it offends, and 9 out of 10 said they didn't have a problem with it.
This was one poll in the Washington Post.
One poll.
Yes. There have been other polls that have showed the other way. We just brought that up because I know he's going to get asked that question tomorrow. No,
he is. So I'd like to see the other polls. I'd like to see other things that are out there that go. And again, I'm just playing devil's advocate and asking the questions here.
The other things that we talked about with him, and again, he'll answer those tomorrow. We'll hear those when he does that live on NFL Live for us. Two of the things that I think a lot of people drove crazy this past year. One of them was, what is a catch and what isn't a catch? And Roger admitted, hey, we're going to be reviewing that one more time.
As great a job as the officials do, they're officiating around a rule that exists, and they're doing a great job with it. I think we got to look at the rule itself as, is it accomplishing what we want? And that's to, obviously bring that clarity to what a catch is.
And obviously Steelers fans will be like, yeah. And a lot of other people would be as well.
The first thing is make it easier to define for the referees because that is true. With all the rule changes out there, even the safety rules, the officials are in an impossible spot. They're going to throw the flag for safety a lot quicker than normal. So that's kind of put on them by the league. And the same thing here because that rule is so, in my opinion, complicated from out of bounds to in the middle of the field to the goal line to simplify the damn thing and make it easier on the people who have to be on the field making the call.
Yes, and it's the fact that he's doing this week. Remember, one of the greatest catches in Super Bowl history would not have been a catch by the rule today. It was Super Bowl 12, the Cowboys over the Broncos 27-10. It was a close game in the I think in the third or fourth quarter. Roger Staubach leans back and throws a 50-yard bomb to Butch Johnson. Butch Johnson makes the catch, has possession of the ball over the end line, and drops it, or the ball comes loose. But because he had possession crossing the goal line, he didn't have to survive the ground. It was a touchdown.
Back then, you didn't have to survive the ground.
And back then, that wasn't an issue. And that would not have been – that was a game-breaking play, a back-breaking play in that Super Bowl. That would not have been allowed today. And the commissioner also alluded to that. This surviving the ground thing has become a real mess.
I think the thing we're really focused in on is this going to the ground and surviving the ground. I think that's what's caused a little bit more of the controversy, and that's the area that the committee is going to be focused on the next few weeks.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Yeah. I loved what he said. Chris Carter is one of the people they brought in, and Chris said, hand the ball to the official, and then it's an official catch. Yeah. Obviously, we know that's going too far, but they do need to come up with something much simpler than what's going on right now.
And look, one of the things that stood out to me this year, and a lot of people point to the Jesse James play in the Steelers-Patriots game, and I get that. To me, week 2, there was a play by Sterling Shepard. He was crossing against the Eagles in the end zone, right to left. He caught the ball in the end zone. He took 3 steps in the end zone with possession of the ball and then was pushed out of bounds. And he's falling forward. So he dove about 7-8 yards out of bounds after having possession of the football with 3 steps in the back of the end zone. And after the push, he fell down and the ball came out of bounds. That was ruled an incomplete pass. Yeah. That one to me was the
Well, again, you didn't. According to their rule, you didn't survive the ground.
But he was in the end zone with 3 steps in possession.
I agree with you.
I'm not a Giants fan. I'm just saying that one is like, come on.
I completely agree with you.
Everyone knows that's a catch.
And that's why
everyone knows that's a catch.
That's why they all know that's something that they have to work on this year, and they have to get it squared away. And hopefully they will. Hopefully that will be something they do, because what that did, it certainly added to replays, that's for sure. The amount of replays, which the commissioner even said there were more replays this year than there were the previous year, even though they were shorter in length. But there were more replays, and that's just one thing. You just kind of drop your head and go, God, another replay. Because forgetting even the challenges, they replay every touchdown, or I believe our touchdowns are replayed anyway. So it just has to be so much more defined, well-defined, and mainly so the referees can have an easier time making the call.
Right. And again, there's a lot more we got into with him, including the ratings and some of the social activism he's doing with the players and why they didn't put that ad in the program. And we'll get to all of those a little bit later. But coming up, we also have that blockbuster trade in the NBA and what it means and what it doesn't mean, perhaps, is even most specifically. Golic and Wingo with you, presented by Progressive Insurance, and Us on the Road is also brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $620, and we will be on the road in a couple of hours, heading up to Minnesota.
Yes, we will.
And I am going to have to carry your luggage for you.
Yes, you are.
Because you have an owie.
I did hurt my shoulder walking the dogs yesterday. I did, in the woods. I was leashing him back up, and Harry was going to take off, my young pug. And as he took off, the leash was wrapped around my legs. I tried to be athletic because I think of myself. I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life since I played. I feel good. Figured I'd hop out of it. It caught me on the side of the ankle. I fell on my elbow and jammed my shoulder badly. And it's my good shoulder. It's the shoulder that only had 3 operations. So
how many did the other shoulder have?
7. So that's the bad shoulder.
Okay.
That's the delineation of good and bad. I don't think I hurt it in a way that's going to be structurally any damage. It didn't feel that way, and I feel I know my body pretty well as far as that's concerned. We'll see. A couple of weeks, if it's the exact same, then I know I probably have an issue. I'm hoping it's gone in a couple of days.
So it's just enough where I'm going to have to carry your luggage and put it in the overhead.
Carry my luggage, put it in the overhead, carry it to the curb, put it in the car for me, take it up to my room when we get to the hotel, possibly unpack it.
I immediately regret this decision.
As well you should.
I just want you to
partner,
know that.
Thanks.
Hey, buddy.
Welcome to Golic and Wingo.
The good news is it looks like the snow will be out of here by the time we take off a little.
All right, we'll land in some in Minnesota.
We'll probably, it's like 1 I think, in Minneapolis, and the high is 1.5, I think. So we're looking forward to that. Obviously, the Super Bowl Media Fest has kicked off with Super Bowl opening night. Earlier in the show, we heard from Bill Belichick talking about his fedora, which was very cool. He wore it. It was his dad's hat.
Yes, very cool.
And for people that did not remember, his dad passed away after the Super Bowl 39 win over the Philadelphia Eagles, so they're playing the Eagles again. So he wore that to honor his dad and have him there with him. And then there was the talk right after the NFC Championship game. Lane Johnson, the outspoken right tackle, very good right tackle, by the way, for the Eagles, who was a big part of the whole underdog theme. He got the great text, or Sal Powell got the great quote from him. I'd love to knock off Pretty Boy Brady and win the Super Bowl. And people are thinking, wow, are you giving them a bulletin board material for the Super Bowl? Well, last night at the opening night of the Super Bowl, let's just say Lane Johnson wasn't buying any of that.
This is a Super Bowl. I don't think you have to get fired up for this game. I don't get the whole point about bulletin board material. Okay, put it by your nightstand. It's not going to make you play any better. I mean, it is what it is.
That was from the heart.
Yeah, it's the truth.
Why'd you call him a pretty boy?
I think go on Google and you can find out pretty quick.
I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, a lot of people consider Tom Brady very good looking.
Yes, he's not wrong there. And listen,
he shouldn't be wrong about wanting to dethrone him either.
You want to play the underdog role to hype your team up. There's nothing wrong with that. You're always looking for a chip. But as far as bulletin board material, I agree with you. Yeah. It's not like New England's listening to any of that, Pretty Boy Time or whatever, and saying, oh, we're going to play harder now. I mean, you are human, though. If something was said that really ticked you off, that give you a little extra adrenaline, a little extra juice in a sport that is all about physicality, possibly. But for the most part, man, especially in this game, again, a game I never got to, I can't imagine you need much motivation. I mean, once you get to the playoffs, really anytime, but let's go to the playoffs when it's win and move on, lose, and your season is over, and now you've made it all the way to the Super Bowl. Yeah, I find it hard to believe that you're going to give out bulletin board material and someone to say, oh, yeah, now I'm hyped up even more because of what they said.
That's what put us over the
harder.
top.
I mean, come on.
Well, you do see some of that after the game, like some of the Patriots after the win in the AFC Championship said, well, Jalen Ramsey said he was going to guarantee it. But that never helps you in your preparation.
It doesn't. I mean, come on. Yeah, if that's going to make you prepare more and play harder, that's more you issue.
Yeah.
That you need that to say that to motivate you and get you playing even harder. So I completely agree. It sounds great after the game. Oh, he shouldn't open his mouth. See what he got? Oh, okay.
Although to be fair, somebody played the clip on Twitter a few days ago of Bill Belichick's pregame Super Bowl speech before the last time they played the Eagles in Super Bowl 39. And to get the team fired up, you know what he did? He read the city of Philadelphia's parade plans.
Oh, the route,
he said, we're going to start here. Yeah. We're going to go down here. And, the players will be in double-decker buses. School will be off. So his message was, hey, guys, they've already all figured it out. So if you want to do something about it. Yeah. And Teddy Bruschi said, yeah, we were a little ticked off about that when we saw that. So it can be a motivational tool, but it can't be the thing that helps you.
Yeah, it can't be the thing that says, oh, we won because of that. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Coming up, more from our interview with Roger Goodell and a 2-time NBA All-Star on Blake Griffin to the Pistons and what it means. That's all ahead. Stay with us.